Well, we're back.
Welcome to the new format.
Very new format.
This is very exciting.
I'm looking forward to it.
This is the first homework I've done in a long, long time, and it was nice.
Yeah, it is.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be going over things that have given Cleveland a black eye as far as murders and crime.
Things that still loom over the city.
Right.
A dark cloud that doesn't seem to fade.
Yeah, they want you to forget it, but it's not going to.
Yeah, and I think this works very well with the Cleveland name.
Yes.
Obviously.
Right. And once again, I'm Bill.
I'm Rick. I'm back.
And this is the Cleveland podcast.
The inaugural storytelling version.
Ooh. Well, today we're going to be going over one. It's the Torso Killer. Torso murders.
The very, very famous unsolved murders that have just kind of hung around Cleveland for
70-some years now.
Geez, 80-some years at this point, right?
Yeah. My math skills are great.
Well, it was a stretch, right? Started in the 20s?
Started in 34.
34, okay.
1934 to 1938.
Okay.
There was 12 victims. Only 2 were identified. The first one was known as the Lady of the Lake. She was found near Euclid Beach.
So Euclid Beach, for those that don't know, that's about 12 miles as the crow flies from downtown Cleveland.
Right. And
headed due east along the lakeshore.
Yeah, she was found on September 5th of 1934. I don't think she was originally first put onto the list of the killer's victims.
You got to start somewhere, though.
Right, but I don't think she was killed first. I think she was found first.
Okay.
But they were, that's how that goes.
Well, you have to think about it, too. I mean, just science alone has gone leaps and bounds. I mean, it's amazing, what forensic pathologists and stuff can discover. So back then, I mean, when you found someone dead, they were pretty much dead, and
that was it.
Yeah,
that's all you're getting out of them. They called most of the area as Kingsbury Run.
Yes,
and I mean, obviously, nobody calls it that now.
No, in fact, doing my research, that was kind of tough to find.
It was, because I found everything it started from east, the flats, running all the way to East 90th.
Yeah, one of the sites, and the Google one, which I relied upon the most, basically considered it from a tributary in Shaker Heights.
Right.
All the way to something called Jackass Hill.
Right.
Which is ends officially at East 49th, which now is kind of where the old LTV headquarters stands at Broadway and I-77.
Right.
But that's down just before Irishtown Bend on Columbus Avenue in the flats, right where the lift bridge is.
Okay.
So there's a peninsula there.
Right.
That, transverses that. So that Jackass Hill dead ends into the river, and then that Kingsbury Run just extends to the western side of the bend of the river there, maybe only by 100 yards.
Yeah, but I mean, I've also seen it where it said from, like I said, the east bank of the flats all the way to East 90th.
Right.
And I'm not talking like the East 90th, I'm talking about the East 90th.
Right.
And yeah, it's kind of weird how it was set up, and I don't know how it would even get that name going that far. I mean, it's basically the whole city.
Well, what's unique about that is, with modern roads and everything, it's a little bit dissected how to get to there. But if you were on foot, it makes a lot of sense. From the air, flying over it, you can see it and it makes sense. But being on the road in a car, there's one ways, there's inaccessible roads,
and a lot's changed. Let's face it, in 1934,
exactly.
I mean, the city was. I mean, it was here, but it was nothing.
To walk it, that would be very doable, though.
Right.
You could absolutely walk.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to sidestep some fences and maybe walk around some newer buildings, but you could do it.
Right.
It's doable.
Exactly. So then, the second victim that they found, that was Yeah, September 5th, and then September 23rd of a year later, 1935, it was John Doe. He was found at what is now East 49th and Prara Avenue.
Okay.
That's what they call Jackass Hill.
Right.
But I looked that up also, and 49th and Prara don't intersect.
No,
so it's like 50th by 490. There's train tracks.
That's where the RTA yards are now.
Right.
That's considered the Valley District, Art Valley District.
Yes.
So 49th and 50th, there's a cross street there called Ham Avenue.
Right.
That dead ends to where I-77 is now. Now, back then, I-77 didn't exist.
No.
And then just to the west of that, again, it drops right into the flats. That's where LCV used to be, which is now Middle Steel.
Okay.
So you had that, which existed back then, and I'm not sure what the size and scope of it was, but, again, what a great place to do it. Industrial area, nobody's really paying attention. They're either at work or they're leaving.
Right, and I guess there's like a lot of shanty towns there, too.
There still kind of are.
Really?
Interestingly enough. Yeah. That was an area for transient workers.
Right.
You didn't have too many migrant workers back then.
No.
But you did have tent cities set up.
Right.
And there was also company housing. And the company housing, even back then, was considered abandoned.
Right.
As we'll learn later in the story, they burned it all to the ground. But
yeah.
Now today, if you go to Irishtown Bend, to Columbus Avenue and some of the areas back there's tent cities built up on the sides of the banks of the river.
Wow. I didn't realize that they're still doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a centralized area. And,
right.
Cleveland does still have, wooded pockets where you can kind of disappear for a little bit, but walk 30 yards and you're in the mix of the metropolis.
Yeah. And a little side note too. Every one of these murderers, they were decapitated. Mm-hmm. The men were castrated, and just dissected.
So, and many of them they didn't find the heads. Correct?
No, right,
okay.
Right. That's why a lot of them were not identified.
Right. No dental records.
Right.
No eye color.
Right. This guy, victim number 3, who was found on September 23rd, same year, 1935. They identified him as Edward W. Andrassy. Andrassy. I'm probably murdering the guy's name after he was already murdered. So
right.
He was found 30 feet from the second guy that was just found over there by 49th and 50th.
Okay. So now they're getting a rhythm. They're getting,
right.
What's the word for it?
There's
trending.
Right. Yeah. There's multiple bodies and
right.
So, but let's face it too, back then, how many, I don't know what the exact numbers, what the police force was back then, but it couldn't have been that high.
Well, Cleveland was a bigger city then than it is now. There were more residents.
Right.
Plus, you had a pool of people that had served in World War I,
right,
who were working in law enforcement.
Right.
So, I think I don't know what the numbers are now, and I don't want to speculate of what law enforcement is in Cleveland. But back then, you had the sheriff's department, which was small. That was still kind of Wild West.
Right.
The sheriff's departments still kind of are nowadays.
Right.
And then you had the Cleveland Police Force.
Right.
It was beat cops.
Right.
They had some automobiles. There was still the mounted unit with the horses.
Right. But most of them were on foot,
right.
carrying a billy club and a whistle.
Walking the neighborhood. Yeah, absolutely. And, cops back then, they're not going to earn extra money for being a hero going into some of these sketchy areas.
No,
you're not going to be one guy with a nightstick,
right?
A Smith & Wesson revolver going into a shanty town.
No, this guy wants to go home.
Right. And remember, this is the height of the Depression, too.
Oh, yeah.
So
there
was a lot of turmoil going on.
Right.
There was bootlegging. There was a lot of other things that shifted the focus and the dedication of law enforcement.
Right. And that whole area was basically a red light district.
Right.
So that was all your illegal gambling, your prostitution, all that.
But you think about it now, Cleveland, as it's connected to the Great Lakes, it doesn't certainly have the prostitution and the drug trade is like a Thunder Bay up in Minnesota, or even, Baltimore or the ports of New York or Long Beach. But those ore ships still go down the river. Those guys are tied up on those boats for months at a time.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to take any type of woman, any type of game that comes along, any alcohol, narcotics, whatever, washes up on their shore.
Right.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. And then victim number 4 was Florence. I'm going to kill this name too. Polilio. Polillio.
Now, she was the known prostitute,
right? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. She was found on January 26th of 36. So a couple months went by.
I've seen pictures of her. She's a stout woman.
Was she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you think prostitute, you think of this glamorized Hollywood style.
Nah, that ain't right.
Not at all the case.
No.
Definitely not.
Yeah, she was found behind a business at, the address there was 2315 East 20th.
Okay, so that's moving up closer to the city then.
Right.
That's actually Ohio City area.
It's by Orange Avenue?
Yep, absolutely. So that's where the current main post office is for Northeastern Ohio.
Right, and it's kind of a goofy intersection there, too, because it's also like East 20th and St. Clair's like right there.
Exactly. So in between Community College Drive, which is where Tri-C is, Cuyahoga Community College,
right,
and then Orange Avenue, which is the post office. Do you know where the Women's Corrections Facility is?
Yes.
Right there.
Okay, gotcha.
Because if you jog south, that turns into Broadway, and Broadway rapidly, you go through 12 blocks right there just by going over the bridge.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of interesting just like looking where these are and what they are now today.
Right.
That's kind of what intrigued me on this,
And that whole area there was all housing, before the Interbelt was built in the late 60s.
Right.
So that was a lot of row housing and multi-tenant homes.
Right. She must have had some tattoos or something because when they did find her, they identified her, but they never found her head.
Okay.
So I'm guessing like you said, she was rather rotund.
Yeah. So shoulders down, she had some identifying marks.
Right.
Was she mutilated beyond that?
Just said that they never found her head. So
we've got 4 of them now.
Right.
Headless corpse.
Yes.
Corpses.
Yes.
Corpses.
Corpses. And now we go to John Doe number 2, which is the 5th guy. He was known as the Tattooed Man, so obviously he had some marks on him.
So this one was interesting because tattoos then, nobody...
No, not really. Mainly sailors.
Sailors who went to ports of call.
Yeah.
There weren't tattoos... Outside of San Francisco...
Right, you had to go overseas.
Exactly. So he had been out to the Far East.
Right.
Or perhaps places in the Mediterranean.
Right. Well, I think New York still did some, too.
New York certainly had some. Right. Yeah, but, again, for a guy, and some of the tattoos he had were pretty unique. One of them was a popular cartoon character from the newspapers.
Oh, was it? I didn't know that.
Which even... by today's standards, would be an ironic tattoo.
Right.
Right. So, definitely some signature marks on him.
Right. He was found, it was Kingsbury Run, obviously, and by Kinsman Road and Berwick Road. Mm-hmm. Well, Berwick and East 68th, which is the Garden Valley now.
Right. Now, this tattooed man, wasn't he moved after he was killed?
I think he was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a common denominator moving forward, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Killing them and then moving them and then displacing. And some of the people were really mutilated, like they found arms and legs only, and then, which we'll get to that.
Right.
And then now we're on to John Doe number 3. This is back in July 22nd now of 1936. Mm-hmm. He was found in the creek area in a gully by Clinton Road.
Okay.
West of Brooklyn, which is west of Brooklyn Auto Body and the Spotted Dog over there. Mm-hmm. East of the Eaton Corp, which in like West Boulevard area.
Right.
So
that's quite a distance.
Yeah, that one was the furthest west that he went. So there are train tracks right there too.
Sure.
And there's a big gully type thing.
Okay.
So that's where the body was found. But I mean, I've been to the Spotted Dog 100 times, you know, and I never thought, hey, guess there was a body back there.
Yeah, what's behind here?
Yeah, right. Yeah, never looked there, you know. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of odd. Then we have John Doe number 4. He was found on September 10th on 1936. He was at East 37th, north of Trumbull, which is now a copper disposal business.
Okay.
Yeah, they called it then Nickel Plate Railroad. I have no idea why. I guess they were nickel plating the railroad tracks.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Right. Now we go on to number 8. This is a Jane Doe now. She was also found Euclid Beach.
Okay. So we're up to our third woman up there.
Yeah, same February 23rd now of 37.
And Euclid Beach was certainly a destination that was an amusement park up there.
Was the amusement park going on then? When did that open?
Turn of the century.
Okay.
It's been around for a long time. They still have the original carousel, the Western Reserve Historical Society. I don't know what year is stamped on it.
Right.
But it's been going on for a long time. Back then, before, television and even before radios were affordable, ballrooms were very popular.
Right, right. That was their entertainment.
Dance and see live bands. It was that or bars or not even restaurants at that point.
Right.
So, and above and beyond that, Euclid Beach area, prostitution.
Right.
So we're now up to our third woman.
Right.
And, just historically, easy victims, easy marks, easy targets.
Yeah, nobody's going to miss them.
Closeted gay men.
Yeah.
And prostitutes.
Right.
Nobody wants to admit to it.
Right.
Nobody wants to raise any flags. People tend to look the other way.
Right.
Very easy prey, easy targets.
Exactly. Now we're on to Jane Doe, number 3. She was believed to be Rose Wallace. They never really came out and actually identified her, but that's what they were leaning towards.
Is she the first African-American woman?
Didn't say.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't give any races or anything like that, actually, the ones that I saw.
Okay.
Yeah, she was found in June 6th of 37. So this is already going on.
This is 3 years
3 years now. Yeah. She was found in a burlap bag in a pile of rocks at Carnegie and Canal.
So that's a different method altogether.
Right.
What signified the connection?
I guess that it was just she was all chopped up.
So between the time frame and the different method of disposal, but the wounds and the mutilation were
right. This one she was found, which is Carnegie, east of Canal, which is the fire museum's at.
Yes,
it's just south of that. Okay. So you're looking right at the fire museum, in that area,
and that rolls right down the hill into the Sherwin-Williams area.
Right. Mm-hmm. Where they're building. Well, it's right underneath the 90 on ramp now.
Right.
Yeah, that's and then now we go to John Doe number 5. He was found July 6th. A month later, he was floating in the river by the West 3rd Bridge.
Okay.
So
chopped up.
Well, chopped up because none of them had heads.
Okay.
But so the torso, the body, and all that.
So that's the calling card at this point.
Yes. Now we jump to Jane Doe number 4, found on April 8th of 38 now.
So now we're skipping 10 months.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So cold winter, something kept him at bay.
Right. Yeah, who knows? Maybe he was in prison. Maybe he was in jail doing something. Who knows?
Psych hospital.
Right. Sure. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. We'll get to that. Yeah, they found a lower leg in the river first by Center Street in Detroit, Superior Bridge, which is Heritage Park right now. Mm-hmm. By the swing bridge and the flats there, that's where they found the leg.
Okay.
Then on May 2nd of 38, the rest of the body was found by West 3rd by Morton Salt.
Okay.
In 2 burlap bags. So it was.
So again, going back
again. Now, for some reason, he had a thing for burlap bags.
Right.
Well, they're probably easy back then. I mean,
everything dime a dozen.
Yeah, everything came in burlap bags.
Right.
12 is another Jane Doe. She was found on August 16th of 38, headless, in the dump on East 9th, which now is the, what do you call it? The Coast Guard station.
Oh, sure. And so up at north end of 9th Street.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Right across from the Rock Hall.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. Yeah, it's the Coast Guard station now, but I guess back then it was a dump. And yeah, the Army Corps of Engineers is there. And then the last one was found in the same spot. And the one guy's head was found in a can. So went from burlap bags to cans.
And he was one of the only heads that were recovered, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I thought that. Well, the one lady had her head.
Okay. Lady in the Lake.
Yes, I think they did find her head also. No, I'm just. But yeah, it was pretty interesting there. And then, of course, their one suspect that old infamous Elliot Ness was working on here. He kind of pinned this doctor, Dr. Sweeney, Francis Sweeney, who ended up being, he served in World War I as a medic.
Okay. And so battlefield surgical experience.
Right. Yeah. He was a medic in there, and primarily what they did was kind of like the Civil War. You had a wound. Guess what? We're cutting your leg off. We're cutting your arm off. Right. That's what he ended up doing. So
under pressure, there's bombs flying over your head. You're getting shot at doing this. So, if indeed it was this Dr. Sweeney, I mean, this would have been like a paid vacation.
Oh, absolutely.
To do this stuff under the
right.
Night,
yeah. No mustard gas or nothing all around.
Exactly. Now, Sweeney also had relatives in high places, right?
Yes, he did. But he also became a surgeon then. He went to St. Louis and became a surgeon. He got married, had 2 kids. He became a huge heavy drinker.
Okay.
Well-known alcoholic, it's like I think he got fired from being a doctor even.
So even during the early parts of Prohibition.
Right.
He has to go to some of these shanty towns, these questionable neighborhoods.
Right.
To get his fix.
Right. And that's pretty much what he was doing. But then he checked himself. So they had him pinned down for 2 weeks, questioning him and all that. And he failed 2 polygraphs. But I didn't even know they had polygraphs back then.
Pretty rudimentary back then. I mean, polygraph even today just measures your blood pressure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're not even admissible in court. Correct. So I don't even know why everybody. Oh, he didn't fail a lie. He failed the lie. Well, right. It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And that's why they had to let him go. But then he checked himself into some mental hospital. Yeah, he got divorced. Then he died in 1964.
Should have lived a long life.
Yeah. He lived 70. He was 70 years old, and he's buried in what is he at? In Calvary Cemetery.
Oh wow! Okay. Still a local guy then.
Yeah, he's there. He's in Section 81, Lot 801, grave number 1.
So, and he was the guy that was harassing Elliot Ness with letters.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, supposedly his handwriting kind of matched that. But like you said, he had relatives in high places. He had a first cousin that was a congressman. And rumor had it that he called the sheriff's department and said, hey,
back off
and find somebody else.
Interesting.
And that's when Frank Dolezal was brought in for questioning by the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department.
Okay.
And they beat a confession out of him.
Tends to happen.
Yeah. So shortly thereafter his beating and signed confession, he died of his injuries.
But the murders continued.
Okay. So
that's strike one.
And then, of course, then you look around and they were saying that he was taunting Ness,
Right.
And they said that he even dumped 2 right outside of his office, Well, it wasn't really outside his office. It was the 2 that were at East 9th, which is
Coast Guard Station.
The Coast Guard Station now. And Ness's building was not that close to it. It's like...
No, old police headquarters back then was...
It overlooked it, but It's not like you're not going to be able to see anything from there.
Right now, that's where the Celebrezzi building stands. So the federal building, which is on 9th and St. Clair.
It's the Standard building, was his...
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Yes, the Standard building, which is across from the current Justice Center.
Right. Yes. Yeah. It's at St. Clair and 3rd.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where Elliot Ness's office was at the time.
Well, back then you overlooked everything because they had mall A, B, and C there.
Right.
There was no Hilton or convention. Well, there was a convention center, but that was underground.
Right.
So yeah, you could see it.
Right, you can see it, but you're not going to be able to see like, oh, there's a body.
No.
I mean, it's far and it's pretty far. But of course, Hollywood and everything's got it was right underneath his nose.
Well, what I found very interesting about Elliot Ness was, everything he did against organized crime and, bootleggers in Chicago. When he came to Cleveland, he was very disliked.
Right.
By the public, because he was a stickler.
Right.
He, played by the rules, and a lot of those guys would look the other way on stuff. Interestingly enough, in my research of this project, I watched an episode of Unsolved Mysteries from 1988, which is still one of my favorite all-time shows.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's hosted and narrated by Robert Stack. Robert Stack, the actor who we know best from the film Airplane.
Oh, yes.
Who played Elliot Ness from 1959 to 1963 in the TV serial The Untouchables.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Circle was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Elliot Ness was never able to overcome these crimes.
Right.
Never got any forward momentum with him.
Right.
And left Cleveland a little disgraced. Never returned.
Yeah.
Never once returned.
That's when he went out to Chicago to look for Al Capone.
He was done with that before he came to Cleveland.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He flip-flopped.
Right.
I don't remember offhand where he went. I think he went to another Midwestern city, but just had a very quiet career in law enforcement after a while.
Yeah.
Everything was blurred shortly thereafter by Pearl Harbor, subsequently World War II.
Right.
So there are so many, not just the torso murders, but so many other things that became blurred or even forgotten because of the country's war effort.
Right.
You lost so many law enforcement officers.
Oh, God, yeah.
Hollywood stars were drafted into the military.
Right.
If you were an able-bodied American male, people missing limbs.
Right. Faces.
If there were things that you could do, you would do it.
Right.
So who knows? Maybe this torso murderer was on the beach at Anzio or in Guadalcanal or
Well, that was World War I. This was prior to
Well, I'm saying maybe the torso murderer survived and went on to serve our country.
Right. Yeah. You don't know. Well,
but it is more likely because the victims were the mutilation was so clean.
Right.
And the bodies were so clean afterwards. It makes sense that it's someone with
medical know-how.
Medical?
Right.
But even more so combat medical.
Right. Right. Yeah, because he can do it quickly.
Exactly.
And he's not on scene a long time, so hurry up, dump the body, and goodbye, Now,
have you seen the death masks at the Cleveland Police Museum?
I have not been there yet.
Okay. It's part of the Justice Center, a place that I have no desire to frequent anymore. But it's in the museum, and what's interesting is, since they never found these heads, how'd they do the death masks?
Yeah.
It's almost a little backwards.
Right.
But they have anatomically correct models of the torsos and the remains that were found
nice.
on display. This is a series of murders that's haunted northeastern Ohio.
Right.
For 80 plus years at this point.
So if you have any information regarding this, please call.
Yeah. Crime Stoppers might give you an award for snitching.
If you were alive back then.
Well, we got a lot of Cleveland people to discuss down the line. This was a nice little research project,
right?
Talking about some of the other ones that are
coming,
like
up.
The Head in the Can.
Yes, yeah,
down the line here. So, a new direction.
Yes,
new content.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it, and hopefully everybody else will too.
Like I said, it was something unique to research. It's the internet is forever, and some of these things kind of
fade away
a little bit. But
there's a couple of other ones that we'll be discussing here in the future that are very hard to find information on.
Absolutely,
they
makes them even more interesting, though.
Yes, it is. It's like, what are they hiding?
Right.
It's one of those.
Definitely.
But we'll find it.
We'll find and deliver.
Well, that's it for the Torso Killer today.
Hope you all enjoyed it. Keep subscribing. Visit us at cleveland.com.
If you have any questions, hit the contact button and we'll get back to you.
Get ready for the next one to be announced soon.
Ta-ta. Stay safe.